Welcome to another edition of Steel Radio, episode number 13. Lucky 13, kind of nuts. We're right by Halloween. We're going to get into our Halloween spectacular. I think Mick Karsh mentioned about Vern Gagne's. Was it a debacle, Mick, or was it a...
It was Vern Gagne. It was a debacle.
Just open that one straight up. We got a great show planned for you today on Steel Radio. Joining us will be Joe Chupik, friend of SDW and one of the great producers in professional wrestling. He is putting on a fundraising show in South St. Paul, which is going to be a great show. We've got a great event planned, and it's a terrific fundraiser. We're going to turn that over to Ed Hellier in studio along with Mick Karsh and Pete Wagner, as we're going to talk about the card, how it's coming together, and then get into some trivia and much more. We may even have a special guest drop by.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Let me know ahead of time, will you?
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Well, no,
you'll have to get out of here. You'll want to leave.
Like a surprise.
Oh, a surprise.
I know Mick doesn't like surprises, but we'll get it figured out.
Polish Joe Chupik. Joe and I have been working here together the last couple of months on a fundraiser coming up Thanksgiving, the new Thanksgiving tradition. Joe, why don't you give us the rundown on the fundraiser you're having at South St. Paul High School?
Well, thanks, Ed, and hi, Pete, and hi, Mick.
Yeah,
it's
Joe.
been a long time since I've seen you, Karch.
Yeah, I know you miss me.
Well, I'll just have to adjust the sight on my rifle next time.
Hey, look, someone doesn't like these oil cans.
Imagine that.
No. Mick and I, we go back a long ways, back to the AWA. But let's get back to this new Thanksgiving tradition with Steel Domain Wrestling. It is Saturday, November 24th. It is at the South St. Paul High School, and it is to benefit the South St. Paul dance team, of which my daughter is a sophomore dancer. The doors open at 4 o'clock. Bell time is going to be 6 o'clock. It's a little earlier start than normal Steel Domain Wrestling shows, but it's for the high school. We want to get the kids there to be able to enjoy it, and the reason that there is a 2-hour lapse in time is we are bringing in 3 of the legends of the AWA. The tag team, known as the High Flyers, Greg Gagne and Jumping Jim Brunzell, as well as the Clawmaster, Baron Von Raschke. And I'd say that is all the people need to know, but there is more information. They will be signing free autographs from 4 to 6, as well as at the intermission. We will be providing 8x10 photographs for the fans, so get there early. You're going to be standing in line. There will be a long line, I'm sure, to meet and greet these legends, and we're looking forward to it. It should be a really, really good card, and if you want tickets, you can get them at the door, or you may want to buy them ahead of time. We have preferred ringside seating. We've got about 120 main floor tickets that are available for $25, and general admission is $18. And again, I know that is higher than normal Steel Domain Wrestling prices, but keep in mind this is a fundraiser for the dance team. So come out and enjoy an incredible night of Steel Domain Wrestling action, as there always is. See the legends of the AWA, and as I've been saying, it's professional wrestling. Anything can happen.
Joe, I got a question for you on the free autographed 8x10s. Does Mrs. Claw know that the Baron is signing pictures for free?
You know, the negotiations went deep into the night.
I see.
A couple of times, Baron was fine. I saw Mrs. Claw. She started to raise that hand, and I was getting a little nervous. But Mrs. Claw and Baron are both on board. I go back a long ways with Baron and Mrs. Claw, and they were very excited and very receptive to helping the dance team out, and I guess doing a slight favor for me, but just wanted to give a plug. We do have a couple of local establishments that are going to be bringing them in. Croatian Hall and Alechko Meats, and Burger King will be bringing in the High Flyers. So Don't worry. Mrs. Claw will be getting a paycheck for
She's
for
the
the
booking
upcoming
agent
Christmas
of the
season
band.
from this. So I think that helped lower that claw, so I didn't get as nervous.
Say, Joe, as you know, in the past, you mentioned the High Flyers. Greg Gagne certainly has some history in Steel Domain Wrestling. Once, I guess it started in Lakeville a couple of years ago, where he got involved in a match, and I guess he got called out in West St. Paul a second time, and not to just sit there and take any abuse, he inserted himself in the ring there. So it's quite possible that Greg Gagne will be at the ready if need be. And of course, the Baron, we saw him get into it with one Dan Jesser in Hopkins, which I found very entertaining. Jesser came out and thought he was going to put the bad mouth on the Claw, and the Claw put the claw on Jesser. And I did get a text from Dan Jesser. He said he's making the trip down to South St. Paul just to kind of observe and see what's happening. But I do have one question for you, Joe. Are you on the dance team yourself?
Ed, I only do the pole dancing in the privacy of my own bedroom, and I've made sure there are no hidden cameras because it would be real expensive to replace them once the lens broke.
Yeah, ask
God.
That explains the elbow issue.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Don't even.
I was going to say just ask Hogan, right?
And just real quickly, while we have Polish Joe on the phone, and Joe, it's such a kick to talk with you again. You and I have a great history together, not only going back to the AWA, but of course there was that other foray that we did for a little while, and I believe there was some female wrestling that you and I were involved in as well. Do you remember that?
I do. I'm trying not to, but thank you for reminding me of that. That was the old NWWL, and that has come and gone.
What does the NWWL stand for?
What does the NWWL stand for? That's a question from young Ed Hellier.
New World Wrestling
of Lakeville, Minnesota, wants to know. Joe, do you remember what?
I most certainly do. The acronym stands for Naked Women's Wrestling League. The naked part holds true. The
Why wasn't I involved in
women's
that?
part holds true. The wrestling part, not so much.
No, not so much. What Mo Booty? Remember Mo Booty? Remember her?
I do remember Mo Booty. Mo Booty was fashioned over the legendary Kamala, who I understand, Mick, from your Facebook posts, he has been going through some health issues, and just wanted to publicly say that is a fine and wonderful thing you've been doing, selling your memorabilia to help Kamala.
Well, he's a very, very nice man. And before we talk about the AWA a little bit, one more name from that NWWL from those days. My favorite was Annie Social.
Yeah. Annie is still. She was one that really personified wrestling because she is a true wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of Philadelphia, she's still in the business. A very good wrestler. She looks a lot like what is that actress? She's on the Addams Family movie.
Morticia.
No, it was a little girl. I forgot the actress's
Wednesday.
name.
No, but what was her name?
I don't know. Her name was Wednesday on the show.
Image of her, but no, Annie. Annie made quite the impression.
She sure did.
WWL, to say the least.
Oh, to say the very least. Now, here's another thing, and I'll bet you didn't remember this, Joe. This is actually the 25-year anniversary, right around Halloween time. Do you remember the infamous AWA television taping in Whitewater, Wisconsin?
Oh, yes.
Talk a little bit about that as we're talking about, the old AWA days. Now, as I recall, the main event on that Whitewater taping was Jerry Lawler and Bill Dundee defending the AWA Tag Team Championships against Paul E. Dangerously's original Midnight Express, Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose. Great match, title switch, but from a technical standpoint, I believe we taped, 4 shows, and I don't know that even one of them made TV. because of the lighting situation. Do you remember that, what that was all about?
I do, and unfortunately, it actually started before that, but the demise of the AWA really started to hit at about that time. And so from a production standpoint, we were trying to do stuff on the cheap. And when you do that, you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
We were not able to have the same type of production truck and production equipment that we used out in Atlantic City for the ESPN show and the Showboat Hotel, where we did the All-Star Wrestling and ESPN from. Those were professional outfits. And this one, I remember when the truck pulled up, it looked like a camper from about 1964, retrofitted to try to resemble a production unit.
Oh,
so not only was the lighting atrocious,
horrible.
But the production equipment on the inside was okay, well, let's see if we can survive this without Vern slapping his forehead going once again, oh, geez, you guys are costing me millions of dollars.
Well, you and I did that, you know. I mean, between you and me, I think, I don't know, the last figure that I saw was actually $2.7 million. And it's going up. Ed Hellier just pointed out, he checked his, I don't know where he got this info, but apparently we might be approaching $3 million that you and I cost Vern Gagne. Just you and I alone.
According to Vern, I think I did that in the first 3 months that I worked for him.
See,
and to this day, Vern claims that I still owe him for him training me into the production and wrestling business. He forgets those 80 hours a week that I was putting in to not only learn the craft, but to bust my ass to do. Literally, we were doing we were doing 4 hours of new programming every single week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, Joe, talk a little bit about the Showboat days, because I know both you and Mick were on site for those tapings. And, I've seen the ESPN shows quite often. They still air from time to time. What was it like back then? Did the crew pretty much have an idea that maybe, these were the end times? What was the environment like in the locker room, and what was it like for you and Mick, jump in here, because I'd love to hear about it.
The Showboat days were still, if you really analyze it, the fall of the AWA started when Vince came in and lured away Hogan, Bobby Heenan, Jesse at the Body Ventura, and that was back and Mean Gene Okerlund. But that all started in 1984, and Vern was able to hold on for a while. He brought in the Road Warriors, and we had gorgeous Jimmy Garvin and Mr. Electricity, Steve Regal, and so forth. So things were still maintaining, and as far as the Showboat goes, it was still hanging on. In large part, I think, was due to a guy who I think did pretty well for himself in the business by the name of Shawn Michaels.
Oh, yes. Shawn Michaels. I was going to say Bischoff. Yeah.
I still, to this day, consider Shawn one of the best workers that I've been around in the business. While his make skills in the beginning were not, he and Marty Jannetty, a couple of gears in the headlights when that red light went on the camera. But the Midnight Rockers really kept it going. And when they left in '87, that's when things really started to slide down, as I mentioned earlier. But as far as the Showboat goes, wow, what a whirlwind trip that was. We'd be there for 21 hours, and about the first 30 times I was there, I don't think I slept one night, because after the matches, it was straight to the blackjack tables with, a lot of the times, Kurt Hennig, another one of the great workers of all time. But we had some fun, shall we say.
Joe, right towards, and when people think of me, they always say, "Oh, the old AWA announcer." Well, I actually only did the TV for Vern for about 5-6 months, but in those Showboat days, he still had a pretty decent roster. He had Wahoo McDaniel, Adrian Adonis, Tommy Rich, Paulie Dangerously came in with the Midnight Express, and as you said, the Midnight Rockers, Jerry Blackwell, Larry Zabisco. So everything, he still had a real good, solid core of wrestlers. But as you said, this was, you could almost feel it. You could feel, sometimes at least I did in the locker room, you could feel the tension. And you could just feel that sometimes they were scrambling, and Vern, I had my moments with Vern. You don't remember the specific one. I think you kind of talked me off the ledge, the one time. But production wise, the Showboat stuff was still pretty rock solid, and to be on ESPN again, that's a coup. But it was starting to unravel.
Well, and being on ESPN was the only reason the AWA was able to be relevant. When you've got the guys that you mentioned on that roster, including Jimmy Superfly Snuka, who left the then WWF and came here. The AWA at that point became, it was either a stepping stone to go to the WWF, or it was the step down. If they weren't working for the WWF anymore, they would come down to the AWA, because even though the NWA was, the other of the big three that was still around, the AWA had ESPN, so you had that national and, quite frankly, international exposure at the beginning when everybody was just getting cable back in the mid-'80s. So you're right, Mick. I mean, the locker room people sensed it, but they were still up there. It wasn't dead yet. I think if I had to pinpoint a specific, this is the end time, it would have been the debacle called Super Clash 3 in Chicago.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, they had a great main event lined up with Lawler against Kerry Von Erich. A horrible finish. If I remember correctly, it was in December of '88. And, God, I don't think that we had more than about 400 people in the audience.
Was that at the UIC Pavilion?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, man.
And Vern had loaded up that card with everybody from world class and some NWA guys and, of course, the AWA guys. It was brutal. It was just horrendous.
Yeah, well, the biggest problem for me, and I think many wrestling fans, wrestling insiders, I think, would agree, have you ever known when you get multiple promoters together that they were ever able to make something truly work well?
Never. Never. And you know what? And that's what Vince McMahon basically says over and over again. Despite all the promoters with this big "we're going to get Vince" campaign, and everybody was going to work together, Vince said, "I just sat back and I knew it was just a matter of time before they ate each other alive and cut each other's throats, stabbed each other in the back."
That would never happen.
And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, they couldn't work together to put together. It really was at that point, outside of the talent of the WWF. It was an all-star roster of talent that they had on that card, but they couldn't put together a solid enough card working with the other promotions, because everybody wanted their guy to be over.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And it also sounds like if you had 400 people in that 10,000-seat arena, nobody was paying attention to the ticket sales. Because, going into a show, I don't know what it is for me. I can kind of tell when there's buzz and no buzz. Nobody detected that 400 people were going to be there. They had no idea. How do you miss something like that?
I remember right before the show started talking with a lighting guy saying we need to kill pretty much all of the house lights and just have the lights around the ring and ringside. And even that exposed how few people there were in the stands.
You know, it almost looked like the Rochester tapings towards the end of the AWA run, where you had a few people here or there, and you had to, like you say, darken most of the house, you know, so it didn't look too bad. And then, too, you know, a couple of years ago, well, more than a couple of years ago, out in Las Vegas, I remember Chavo Guerrero approaching Vern in kind of a drunken stupor, but nonetheless, he was complaining that he never got paid for the Super Clash event.
Many claim that.
To this day, Jerry Lawler says he never got paid for Super Clash, and that's why he started no-showing. And eventually, of course, the storyline was that the AWA stripped Lawler of, you know, the title. But you know, the whole thing had so much potential, and boom, right in the toilet.
Yep. Great idea, poor execution. Which, I mean, even around the office, there was no excitement for it. We all knew that things were not looking good. Things hung on for 2 more years. You know, you brought up Rochester and how towards the end, you know, there was no crowd. Well, to back things up even a couple of years when the Rockers had their run with Rose and Summers. In fact, I mean, one of the greatest tag team matches I ever saw, the Bloodbath.
Yes.
In Las Vegas, Sherry Martel, of course, was the manageress or valet or whatever you want to call her for Rose and Summers. And during that feud, the Showboat sold out every single night. It was back like the old days back here at the, whether it's the auditorium or the Civic Center or the Minneapolis Auditorium, where, you know, it was run, don't walk, get your tickets. As soon as it was announced that they were going, the tickets were sold, and it was a sold-out show. Well, and then once the Rockers left, that was it. It started to get sparse, and that's when Vern brought it to Rochester. And in the beginning, Rochester was good. And then, same thing, run low on talent, and there you go. The AWA really closed up in 90. But ran for another year in reruns, and 91, November of 91 was the final end.
Well, and to me, and I, first of all, I know you don't want to bury Vern Gagne, and I don't either. And to me, despite all the crap towards the end, it was still an absolute privilege and honor to work for Vern Gagne. I mean, this is a childhood hero. And sadly, when you and I came on board working with Vern, you know, from an emotional standpoint, he was really feeling the pressure. And I think his whole personality was changing, and there was just so much tension, and he was aggravated all the time. But given all that, I still am very, very proud to say I was an AWA employee at one time.
Mick, there's no doubt. I mean, I grew up in the Twin Cities in South St. Paul, Minnesota, and went to all of those matches growing up. And, you know, Vern Gagne was one of the heroes, and working for him, it was an honor. You know, Vern is one of the most charismatic people that I've ever been around. He was a bear running business, but sometimes you have to be, and with the added pressures involved in trying to keep it alive and keep it afloat, you know, I can understand, you know, why he was a bear behind the scenes. But to his credit, Vern put in a ton of his own money back into the AWA. He tried, he just could not compete because he kept the old school mentality. And now, having said that, Mick, I'm going to agree with you 100%. Not here to bury Vern Gagne. Vern is a true legend in the sport. A fabulous worker, old school worker. There's no entrance music. There was no flash. He came out with a towel around his neck and a little jacket on, and Vern worked it. He was a wrestler.
Sounds a little bit like Matt Classic.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah.
Joe, we're going to take a real quick.
Compare the two.
I know.
Oh, no, sorry.
But the towel and the coat.
Say, Joe, we're going to take a real
Matt
quick
Classic
break here.
is trying to be Vern Gagne, but there's only one Vern Gagne. You know, Vern put the AWA in the Minneapolis area, and then later the Upper Midwest on the map. and I give all of the dues and all of the credit to what Vern was able to accomplish in and outside of the professional wrestling ring.
Joe, once again, can you throw the date for us for the Thanksgiving tradition, which starts this year? I believe it's, the 24th of November?
Yep. It's Saturday, November 24th at the South St. Paul High School. Doors open at 4 o'clock. Bell time is at 6. And again, the High Flyers and Barron will be there, and to benefit the South St. Paul dance team. And just real quick, I want to earlier, I believe Ed, it was you who discussed Greg jumping into the ring, and in past Steel Domain shows, and I talked to Greg a little while ago, and I got to say, he's in his early 60s, and Greg still looks good. The little less hair a la Vern Gagne and a little bit grayer, but he still throws a mean drop kick, so you never know. And as far as Barron getting involved, Ed, we got to talk here. Dan Jesser is going to be at South St. Paul. Why?
He just said that he will be there. He just sent me a text.
Is he party crashing?
I don't know, but he's going to be there.
Exactly.
Why don't we bring in Nacho Pereira or somebody? Dan Jesser? I mean, as long as Jesser pays his ticket, he's not getting in for free. Jesser needs.
Don't worry, he'll get in.
You know Ed Hellier. Yeah. Ed's not going to let anybody in for free, including us. I think we're going to take it.
We're the one that's selling the tickets, and if Jesser tries to get in without paying, there's going to be some issues. And, if Jesser wants another piece of Barron, I'm sure the Claw, maybe even Mrs. Claw, will help take care of Mr. Dan Jesser. So I've said my piece about Dan Jesser. That's all I'm going to say about it.
We will keep our eye on that. Joe, we're going to have to move on to our next segment. We appreciate your time here for joining us today. We're going to take a quick time out. When we come back, we're going to talk trivia and much more in segment number 2 of Steel Radio.